Do we want to talk about why there's this
big sword
on the table?
They give out a sword here. It's not crazy sharp on the edges, but the tip of it is like a needle. So you got to watch out there.
You have a couple of these, though, right?
I do. Yeah.
I was gonna say the sword is not new. Yeah.
No, I got 3 or 4 of them for sure. I'm not sure if I've ever won the spring race.
3 or 4, you could have like a full-blown sword fight. Molly gets one, Taylor gets one.
No. No ideas, please.
The following is a production of Dirty Mo Media.
What's up, guys? Welcome to a winning edition from Bristol night race of Actions Detrimental. Finally got a dub. This episode is presented to you guys by our sponsor, Birch Gold Group. Go check them out. You can text Denny to 989898 if you want to learn a little more. Well, before we get into the weekend, too, we want to offer our condolences to Sherry Pollock's family. She has been a huge advocate for cancer survivors and those who are battling cancer for so many years now. And, she's been a staple in our sport and, done a lot of great things for a lot of great causes for many, many years. And she unfortunately lost her battle with ovarian cancer today. So our thoughts and prayers are with her and her family and everyone who's helped support her. Finally, we got a win that we deserved. It was the final race of the first round of eliminations. We'll talk about that a little bit and then some off-track stuff. So definitely want to check out some off-track stuff first with you guys. You see the list here. What do you think we should hit first there, Jared?
I think it's probably most fitting to talk about Bristol Dirt going away next year.
Yeah. Who knows if this means that the dirt race entirely will go away, whether they take it to another place or not. But it sounds like, definitely the Bristol Dirt's going away. I think that's, the right thing to do for sure. I think that kind of ran its course and, the fans came out hot and heavy the first year, second year, But yeah, it's, that's such a great venue that you hate to cover it up for dirt. And I'm sure SMI probably sees it too. I mean, there's a cost and expense to loading a bunch of dirt in that place and then cleaning up afterwards, right? So, we've had that happen. So we know that Bristol Dirt will not return next year. We're going to be back on the concrete for 2 races. Me personally, my opinion, I'm looking forward to that. We got the Clash that just got released today, right? Today is Sunday. We were going to shoot this on Monday, but I was sitting around and I texted you.
You realize you don't have much going on Sunday if you're not racing.
I know.
That's what happened.
I was sitting there and I was thinking, I'll just take the day off and everything, And by 3:30 or 4 o'clock into the football games, I'm like, let's just get this shit over with. Let's just do this, and that way I can sleep in tomorrow. So thank you guys for showing up for that. So the Clash is returning to LA. I like that move too. I mean, I think that, it is a long way out there. It's tough on the race teams for sure, but I think it's still a cool venue and a cool type of format. So
yeah, I like the idea of staying in LA.
Yeah.
I just think that, I would be okay if the Clash went away for something else that was in LA or in the LA market. But if we don't have that yet, I'm okay with sticking with the Clash. I don't know what the expenses are and what that does to teams, but from a fan perspective and just, a way to build excitement for the season, I think it's cool.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know what we're entirely talking about from the team standpoint, why I say it's tough for the teams, logistically, we start the season, we go all the way out to LA for this exhibition race. Then the following week, we got to go all the way out to Daytona, the other side of the earth, basically. And then the week after that, we go out to the West Coast. So it's just back and forth. So that part of it's tough. And then from the financial standpoint, the Clash isn't really a heavy-paying event. So all the teams pretty much lose money on it. But it's, in the past, it's been good for the sport. It's certainly got better ratings. In its first couple times in our previous Clash races. So that's cool. And then we've got Spire.
These two kind of go
I was going to say they go hand in hand. Spire buys BJ McLeod's and Matt Tiff's charter from Live Fast for $40 million. Yeah, I mean,
cha-ching, right? For BJ McLeod?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Great for BJ. I mean, he's, he really wanted to be competitive in the Cup Series, and he really enjoyed competing. And I believe this was one of the only teams that had their own engine program, whatever that might be, right? It's very, very tough to compete if you don't have a top-tier engine program. But yeah, I think this is an opportunity well, how much, probably a financial thing of BJ's thinking. This is all speculative, right? It's hard for me to get in his brain and figure out what he's thinking. But, how much will I have to invest to really be competitive? It's a single-car team. There's no efficiencies I gain because I am just a one-car team. And then what investment will I have to put in my team to be competitive? Or I could just cash out when maybe we're at the height of this, maybe we're not. I think probably made the right choice. It would be really, really an uphill battle to compete at a high level without proper resources, and it was going to be an uphill climb to get those resources. So,
do you know what he paid for the charter a couple years ago?
That's a good question, but I wouldn't think more than a couple $1 million.
Yeah, definitely 7 digits, right?
Oh yes, for sure. It was when charters were just a couple million. But yeah, I think it's we're still gonna have BJ and Live Fast around. They're gonna be competing in the Xfinity Series. So that's a influx of cash now to that program that hopefully they can continue to build on that program as well. So BJ's not going anywhere, and he's a great dude, and Matt Tift is giving back to the sport through his driving, his owning as well. So happy for them.
Trackhouse announced 2 new signees this week, one earlier in the week and then one yesterday, Saturday. Yep. Shane Van Gisbergen.
Yep. Good job.
Got it right.
Good job.
And Zane Smith.
Yeah, this is a great sign for Trackhouse, and I think that this is Zane is certainly deserving of this opportunity. He's every time he's had the opportunity to compete in Cup, he's done a great job, got great results. This is great forward thinking by Trackhouse and Justin for his team to look towards the future, right? And if you look at it really quickly, he's got more drivers than seats.
That's what I was about to ask. Now you have, I'm guessing, 4 Cup Series drivers, presumably competing for 3 seats in 2025.
I think you said a key word there, competing. There's nothing wrong with competition. If you have more drivers than seats, I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. You put pressure on those guys to, hey, let's let the best man win, right? So I think, I don't think there's any secret that the SVG thing is more of an experiment than anything. I really look forward to SVG running in, multiple series next year and getting to run ovals and learning it. I think he's a great dude and tremendous talent, obviously. But that experiment could take some time. Would he be ready to run Cup full-time in ovals in a year? No way. Just no way. I mean, these guys are just too good. But you want to see him have a steady progression of it. So if Trackhouse can keep under contract for a few years, maybe you see the progression that you like after a year or two, and then you move them up to Cup if the opportunity presents itself. Zane, I think, is more of a given as far as where he thinks he's going to be in 2025. It sounds like he's going to get kind of leased out. Not leased out, that's kind of a weird word, but, kind of farmed out to Spire for next year. With that, Spire has an alliance with Trackhouse, which is interesting. I thought they had an alliance with Hendrick. So it sounds like Spire's just kind of being this farm AAA team, and that's probably downgrading them more than I should. But it's like they're kind of a feeder for these bigger teams. Like I know their pit crews really come from Hendrick, so a lot of their Devo guys or development guys, young guys on pit crews that they develop, start at Spire. bam, if you perform well enough, you get on a house card at the on a pit cruise. I don't know that their personnel really runs through Spire, like mechanics or anything like that, engineers. Not that I'm aware of. It doesn't mean it's not true, but it's not that I'm aware of. So this is obviously a big move, by Spire to invest this in their team. I guess the only question I have would be, did they spend $40 million on a charter, or was this part of a deal with the Gamebridge group that allowed them to own a stake in all three charters? So I guess, you don't know, the devil's in the details, but you don't really know, is the headlines right, or is there more to this deal than meets the eye? That's just a question I guess I would have, because it certainly affects charter values, right? If they just paid $40 for this one charter, which is, BJ's charter's been ranked last for a couple years now, or is this part of a bigger deal that, unless you're in the know, or NASCAR or somebody in the financials would know, is this part of a bigger buy-in to Spire from the Gamebridge group? And so it'd be interesting to know that for sure. But either way, it's a big investment. They're working. The Spire group's getting better and better. It's great to see that they're continuing to invest in the sport. And obviously, they had a great night last night with Corey LaJoie going before he crashed. But they're running better and better for sure. I don't think there's any secret to, you got Carson Hocevar probably going in the 77. You're going to have Zane in the third car, Corey in the 7. So they've got some good young talent there that is ready to, when probably Dad wants to call them up, Dad being Trackhouse on one side, Hendrick on the other, they're ready to make a move. So
for argument's sake, let's pretend that they did purchase this one charter for $40 million. How does that make you feel as a fellow owner who's also in the charter market?
Well, first of all, that's speculative. To say I'm in the charter market, I feel much better about my investment if it is true, right? If it is exactly what as advertised, with what we paid. If you combine what we paid for the two, it's just a few years ago, and then. Yeah, I like my investment. It's turned out well so far. But all it really does, it's not worth anything to sell it. So it's still, for us, it still costs a significant amount to compete. And it's still, if you don't have the sponsorship, you're not going to compete, and you're going to lose money every year. So it's just a matter of, it's good that the franchise value, though, is worth something, because, these owners like Rick Hendrick and Joe Gibbs and Roger Penske and Richard Childress that have been around for such a long time deserve, getting paid for their commitment to this sport for decades and decades, right? They deserve for their franchise to be worth something, a big number, whatever that number might be.
That's kind of what I'm getting at. If BJ McLeod's charter is ranked at the bottom and was just purchased for $40 million, what does that mean for the 11 charter, the 5 charter, the 9 charter?
I think that when it comes to getting sold, right? Let's just use, you got the group that purchased into Gibbs, right? More than likely, they purchased into the assets, the contracts. So they bought into not just the charters. More than likely, they purchased into the whole franchise of Joe Gibbs Racing. Now, a lot of that includes, how much money worth of, contracts do they have with sponsorship and manufacturers and things like that? So there's a separate evaluation than just for the piece of paper saying you're allowed to compete in this, and have a charter. So, it's tough to say. It's tough to say what really the big teams are worth, because certainly they have more assets, they have more contracts with sponsors, and certainly the more contracts you have that, of revenue, the more revenue you have, typically your value of your franchise would go up at a multiple. You can argue what that multiple might be. So I think it's good for everyone. Certainly, we're still in some trying times when it comes with our negotiations with NASCAR. We're only 3 months and some change away from like our charter agreement running out. There needs to be some serious work on that, like in a hurry. To redo our charter deal in just 3 months is very optimistic on NASCAR's part, and what the last thing the teams want is this deal to be rushed. We want it to be right and beneficial for everyone involved, and I believe that we can get that done. So overall, this is a good sign for the teams. Still need to make it at least viable on a year-to-year basis, but certainly it looks like there's some long-term value there.
Do we want to talk about why there's this
big sword
on the table? I just want to grab this. I think Travis is going to.
I guess that's a Coliseum thing, is it?
Did you get one at the Clash?
No. I wouldn't know. I've never won that.
Yeah.
I haven't won the one in LA. I've won the one in Daytona plenty of times, but yeah, they give out a sword here. It's not crazy sharp on the edges, but the tip of it is like a needle. So you got to watch out there. I said afterwards I was going to use it to fend off all the haters, just, guard myself.
Is that going to be like your letter opener at home going forward?
Yeah. Michael Gatella, actually at JGR, the chief competition guy there, was like, you need to use it to swipe open a champagne bottle. So I've never done that before. I'll end up cutting my hand, so I'm going to stay out of that.
You have a couple of these, though, right?
I do, yeah.
I was going to say, the sword is not new. Yeah.
No, I got 3 or 4 of them for sure. I'm not sure if I've ever won the spring race.
3 or 4, you could have like a full-blown sword fight. Molly gets one, Taylor gets one.
No. No ideas, please. Let's that kind of covers the off-track stuff. Oh, just to kind of wrap up to, Zane, super happy for him. I know that he's really accomplished a lot in the trucks, and he was really excited about this opportunity. You saw kind of his emotion in the press conference. Well deserved. Obviously shows that you continue to excel and perform well at whatever level you're at. You're going to get opportunities at the higher level. That always hasn't been the case, but it's looking like it's starting to get a little better. So that's great. And let's kind of talk about the race now, the fun stuff.
Football is back in full swing with another week of epic games. And who's got you covered on the action for every single one of them? DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. New customers can bet $5 on football and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Nobody's missing out on the action this season. All DraftKings customers can take advantage of 2 new offers every game day this September. Download the app now and use code ACTIONS to sign up. New customers can bet just $5 and take home $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on the DraftKings Sportsbook with code ACTIONS. The crown is yours. What should we start with? You want to start with your race, or should we talk about the overall race?
Yeah, let's just kind of talk about the overall race. I thought that it's kind of what we expected with Bristol. I know there was a kind of a split there was kind of a driver text overnight. Should we respray? Should we not? I thought that while the inside lane was very, very dominant for the first certainly 100 laps, it wore off quite a bit, and I thought by the end of the race, the top and the bottom were the same. Now, if you were good, if your balance was very good, you could, like I thought ours was, you could. I ran the same times. It didn't matter whether it was the top or the bottom. My car ran the same exact time. Like that's what really allowed me to get through the traffic as good as we did. Now, others, if your car didn't handle as good, you would be pinned to the top or the bottom. Most people top if your car is not handling great on the bottom. So I thought that the decision to spray overnight was a good one because I just don't know that we wanted a end of the race, everyone running the top of the racetrack. I just didn't know that was going to be great. But I thought at the end, certainly the last 200 laps, 250, the inside and the outside lane was very equal on speed. But really what you saw was guys that could get out front could control the race. And, when they caught lap traffic that was running the same lane that they definitely were getting held up. And if you couldn't maneuver your car, like the people would start catching you really, really quick. I know me and Seabell pulled away from third, which was, I think, McDowell at the time, really, really quickly early in the race. We had about 3.5 seconds. The minute we caught the back of the pack, they were right on our bumper. So it was nervous moments trying to move up the track and dealing with lap cars. But I thought that it was a pretty racy race. I looked at the Jeff Gluck poll. Looks like this thing is going to be around the 60s or so.
Much lower than you anticipated.
It was. I mentioned on the teardown last night that I thought it'd be, in retrospect, after thinking about it more, I said, kind of a mid-70s. But, you got to take into account, he's like, take off a few points. You won, so you're going to have to take off a few points there. Then you've got, we had a long run at the end. I don't know that fans love super long runs at the end. That always hurts numbers a little bit. But overall, I think that, there was no real surprises when it came to that race. But yeah, it was Bristol night race. It's very typical of what we've kind of had there in the past. The great thing about at least this short track is there was no shifting, which was good. But generally speaking, we know that this is a very aero-dependent race car that is tough when you get behind other cars. And that has to do with the ratio of horsepower to grip on this car is quite a bit different than what we had in the previous generation, which was 750 horsepower with tires that were a couple inches narrower, right? And we've widened the tire, we've killed the horsepower. So it's just everyone's just got so much grip, and forget the aero side. The aero has nothing to do with it on the short tracks, as we found. It just has more grip, and so it makes it really tough to pass. But, I know myself and Kyle Larson he got a penalty. I got a penalty, which that was a fun little game. I came out of my pit stall, and I'm battling for the lead. And those of you saw, we were kind of side by side. I was the last car on pit road on the backstretch. Well, he is coming in because he had to start last because he had a poor qualifying effort, whereas he was dead sideways. He's just making the corner to round the corner between the backstretch and the front stretch, and I'm pulling out of my stall. And I guess my thinking is that I usually adhere to whoever's running in front. Like, so when you have a car coming out of a stall or a car coming in, usually the higher position guy should get the yield there in spot. But Kyle pretty much had me cleared, but I accelerated, and I'm trying to get the lead off of pit road. So I'm running tied up against the wall, and as I'm doing that, I'm gaining more and more up until I'm up beside him. And then they're like, well, he's about to pit. And so I'm like, well, I don't want to hit the brakes and to let him in his stall because I'm going to lose a second doing that, and I could come off pit road third or fourth at this point. So I had to put him the decision to, hey, he's going to have to check up because he was at the back at that time anyway. We were about to lap him because he was stuck in traffic. But while doing that, I sped on pit road, which is such a bonehead move.
But so correct me if I'm wrong. You were caught speeding on pit road because on
the
TV,
radius,
right? So you're too far inside.
Which NASCAR warns us of that. Those who don't know, they do timing. They don't actually have a radar gun out there pointing your pit road speed. They don't have a police officer there checking all that.
Yeah.
They just do it off of time. It's a time and distance thing that they do. And if you shortcut a radius, like if it's a circle, right, the tighter
you're gonna go from point A to point B faster,
quicker, right? And so where I was running my pit road speed there, I was running my lights correctly, but I was too low basically. And it caused me to speed. So at that point, me and Kyle go to the back of the pack together, and we were coming to the front together at that time. But I kind of got caught behind a few cars, and Kyle went by me, and he was one of the first guys to get up top, him and Ty Gibbs, and he was blowing to the front really, really quickly. So at that point, I kind of knew that Kyle was going to be one of the toughest competitors that we were going to have to face in the evening, and it turned out that way. But so anyway, we both went to the back of the pack, and usually you can't come back from speeding penalties or any penalties nowadays, but there was so early in the race, in a 500-lap race, we had plenty of time. But I thought it was...
It just sounded like you kind of knew that you were speeding, or that you knew that the possibility was there. Yeah. You weren't surprised.
No, I wasn't surprised. I'm never really surprised. It always makes me laugh when some of these drivers are like, no way I was speeding. Like, of course, like the numbers don't lie, right? It's, NASCAR isn't making this up. It's just straight numbers. Most of the time I speed is not, I'm accelerating out of my stall or something like that. So it's usually just, I'm trying to get up to speed as quick as I can, and then, I'm over, right? So, and then you try to back it down, or it's coming to pit lane, green flag pit stop or something. You're trying to get all you can on entry, boom, you speed there. So, I hadn't had a speeding penalty in a very, very long time.
Twitter would not know that.
Well, that's just like a narrative that was set such a long time ago that it just kind of lingers on. Yeah. But yeah, certainly we're not even remotely near the top 5 or I don't even think 10 in speeding penalties. But I'm glad we were able to come back from it. That was cool.
Concerned at all in the moment?
Not really.
Like, that's kind of what I'm getting at.
Just because I tell you this all the time. Like, I know within 15, 20 laps of the race, like, do I have a race winning car or not?
Yeah.
And I just knew early on that we did. And I knew that it was early enough that I was going to be able to come back from it.
So you're just making the race more fun for yourself?
Not intentionally. Not intentionally for sure. But certainly cut down on the laps led that I was going to have that night. But, it was just one of those weird, quirky things that happened. It was interesting because, I was kind of racing Kyle on pit road there, and it kind of just baited me into making a bad decision. But yeah, it was, I look at kind of, how this first round has played out. Certainly the 5 car and Kyle's just been super strong every single week. They were a top 2 car at Darlington. Certainly a top 2 car, I think, at Kansas. And then this weekend they were super strong as well. They were really fast in practice, and I think they were just probably a little bit too loose there in qualifying, and he got sideways a bunch. And so they're going to be tough to beat, no doubt about it. I got asked in the media center quite a bit, what about the Challenger? What do you have to do to beat the 5 car? I'm like, I don't have to beat the 5 car right now. If we get to Phoenix together, then certainly he will be a competitor I have to beat. But I feel as though you always have to concentrate on yourself and what can you do to be your best. And I feel like when my team's at my best and probably their team's at their best, like, yeah, we're close. It's very, very close. Now the 19 car, he makes it back in. He's going to be, when they're at their best, they're crazy tough to beat as well. So it's just, you never know what can happen, and you can't get too far ahead of yourselves because there's 6 races to go to even put yourself in a position to win a championship. So, who knows what happens this next round. And it's shaping up to, you're seeing some of the cream rise to the top when Kyle Larson this time of year, he's on it. He's up front, and the 24 cars ran good all year, and they're running pretty good. They've had an okay start to this playoffs. If I kind of handicap it, it's certainly, the 5 and 11 are really, really close, and you got kind of the 45, was really strong for the first 2, not as strong at Bristol. The 24 has just been steady. I guess it is. And then there's just kind of been everyone else, but you just don't know what happens when we go to Texas, like who shows up. And it's just, this sport is so week to week. You just never know. And it's so hard to handicap for that reason.
Yeah. I mean, that's the big thing, right? Going into this next round is how much of a wild card it is. You got Texas, which is, pretty straightforward, you would think. But then after that, Talladega and the Roval. So
yeah. Well, I definitely want to talk on a couple of guys that did have some great runs at Bristol to kind of wrap just the individual race up itself. Carson Hocevar, fantastic run. It looks like Legacy has turned the corner. Unfortunately, like for Noah, right, is as soon as he got out of the car, the organization got better.
Do you think that's what it is?
Like all driver? No, I don't, because I think the 43 car.
I just don't understand how
well.
Legacy could flip the switch in a matter of a couple days between races like that.
It doesn't take much. There's a home base probably in setup world that they found something. They hit on something at a racetrack, and then that became their home base when they set up setups at other tracks. It can happen like that, right? Because again, the parts and pieces are all the same. It's doubtful that they're getting any Chevrolet information anymore. So they're having to kind of do this on their own. So, the old-fashioned way is pen and a piece of paper, and these engineers trying to figure out what the right setup is, and it just takes hitting it one time for you to come up with some sort of baseline that helps you at all racetracks. But, Eric Jones didn't have a very good, race this weekend, but Carson Hocevar had a great race. So he was running in the top 10 for the most of the night. So
yeah. I guess just credit to him for bringing the spotlight on the team.
He's doing a great job. You can't say enough about, we gave him a lot of for a long time in the truck series, kind of making some really boneheaded decisions, but he's certainly growing up quickly, and he's showing that he can compete at the highest level. Ricky Stenhouse, although eliminated, I guess we can kind of go into this, right? I want to talk a little bit about all the four drivers that are eliminated. First, I'll start with Ricky. Great job by that team. It was going to be an uphill battle for him to make it in the next round, but they did their jobs. Like they really have done their jobs. Ricky ran the top 10 for a lot of the night as well. Finished 10th. I think that team really made big gains this season in their performance. And certainly they're going to look to, I think I heard them say that, being top 12 in overall points before the end of the year is their goal. I think they can achieve that as long as they keep on this steady Eddie type of runs that they're doing. Michael McDowell, I can't sing his praises and his team's praises enough, because in a year where, everyone seems to want to blame Ford for the Logano not running well, SHR's not running well. The 6, the 17, and the 34 are in the top 15 pretty much every week. They are running extremely well, and McDowell had, in my mind, one of the best oval races he's had in his career. He was in the top 5 pretty much all day, and he gave himself a chance. If there's a yellow at some point in that last 100, I think that 34 team probably takes 2 tires and then good freaking luck trying to get around them. I think it would have been interesting for sure. But they have just performed great. McDowell is stepped up his game. They're not just qualifying well. They're practicing well. They're racing well. They're legit. We can't just ignore the fact that it's a weekly thing now. And even though they were eliminated, they deserve a ton of credit this year in what has been a down year for the manufacturer.
Yeah, it's also telling that in a race that team needed to come into and compete for a win. They did just that, right? They showed up with a car that could win the race if things fell their way.
Certainly, they performed better than I would expect or anyone else. Like, hey, they got to win or it's over, right? Well, they showed up, and they showed out, and so they gave themselves an opportunity. If cautions or things fell differently, you just never know. They nearly did it. So that wraps them up. now you look at the two bigger name guys that are past champions of our sport that were eliminated in Logano and Harvick. I guess Logano first. He kind of said in his interview that we were running crappy and we got caught up in a wreck because we were running crappy. I think he finished 34th. I think he was running 31st when he got. Yeah, he was running 31st. Certainly at some point in the first stage. Before he got wrecked. That's just not what you expect out of Penske Racing or Joey Logano. Certainly, if they're running like that, there's something off. It's just not some accident. They've performed really well at that track in years past. You can say that for Harvick as well. We'll talk about that in a minute. But, as a competitor, I'm like, man, I'm glad Logano's eliminated because it doesn't matter how fast his car is. He finds a way. He grinds his way. Very similar to Harvick, they find a way to just finish better than they run most weeks, right? So, they still, were part of will he make it, will it not, because of the way the 19 and the 23 were running. But I was really surprised to see them running so bad. He was in the way at the beginning of the race. I think they took 2 tires at some point, and they got ping-ponged around like it was just bad. This car was all over the place, and it looked hard to control from my seat. I think this is probably the first time Logano has been eliminated.
It's the first time the previous champion has ever been knocked out in the first round of the playoffs. Yeah,
and they won one race I think early in the season. I don't know where, but they just weren't themselves. I don't know what it is. When you look at kind of the resources that Penske's got versus someone like a McDowell's team. It's hard to blame it probably on bodies or, maybe it's a simulation. I don't know. It's got to be something that's kind of off there. But this sport is so ebbs and flows. You just never know. They could show up, in next week or start next year and just be on fire. So they certainly, it's not Joey for sure. It's not Harvick for sure. These are champions of our sport. But surprising to see them eliminated.
Yeah, he won at Atlanta.
Yeah, super speedway, right? So
this is also a product of what we talked about going into this race, though, is that something was going to happen to somebody above that cut line.
Yep.
And this was just it. Because Joey didn't finish that many points out of he didn't finish that many points below the cut line. Had he had an average day, he would have
but he ran like at Kansas. He was bad. He finished good, but he was running bad there too.
Right. Well, those races put you in this position where if something does happen to you, you're going to.
And they didn't win as many stages or races. They didn't come into the playoffs with as many bonus points as they had in years past, right? So they couldn't afford races like this. And now, had he just done his thing, right, and not got caught up in wrecks at Bristol, yeah, he probably still makes it. But again, was he going to be a true threat to go win a championship? Not likely. Not likely this year. So, that's tough, but that team will bounce back. Now, for Harvick, certainly this is not how he wanted to, end his, playoff career. He summed it up with his interview as well. He's just like, man, what do we really expect? We've been marginal at best all year. I'll say, though, that it still can't be understated, and this was a very uncharacteristic Rodney Childers race car. I saw Rodney's tweet about, I just don't understand. This is the same car, same setup from last year. I understand all that, but typically in these situations, let's just say 90% of the weeks, or maybe even higher, the 4-car carries the SHR banner as far as performance, right? You look at their results, and it's like Harvick's blank, and the rest of the 3 are way back here. And it was just the opposite this week, which is really, really unique. I think that he got in, I was kind of watching the race back. It looked like he got on the wall a few times. Did that knock a toe link or something out of sorts? You just don't know. But even in practice, they were slow. They just had a knife to a gunfight, and it just was a very dull knife. And that was very out of characteristic for that team. It's unique because, you look at Darlington, they had, a top, 3-car at Darlington, it looked like. So, man, that's this sport. That's this format where you got to just put it all together. And again, he's the same boat as Logano. Just didn't have the playoff points he's had in years past. Kevin didn't seem too shocked when he did his interviews. Rodney was more shocked. I was probably on Rodney's side, being more shocked that, they didn't perform better. But, man, he's still just like one of the best drivers. He proves it week in, week out. Rodney proves it with what he brings to the racetrack week in, week out. This happens in sports. Sometimes you just miss it, and they missed it this weekend. And they were the points battle was tight throughout the entire night. But their tough position was they didn't even have an opportunity to try something different or do a different strategy because cautions didn't fall that way. Even when he's 3 or 4 points behind, you're like, oh, he can just go get that. He couldn't because he was on his own lap. There was never 3 or 4 points right there for him to get. He just never was in contention. He was more just on the defense the entire night.
It's interesting, though, that when you look back at these 3 race seasons in the round of the playoffs, right? Like you look at Darlington and Kevin Harvick, where if he doesn't have that situation where the caution comes out right in front of him and he's on pit road, right? Maybe he finishes in the top 5 or something, and then it doesn't really matter where he finishes at Bristol at that point because he would have had the points to advance.
Yeah, that's what it is, and I think that it's good that we reward the guys that like Truex, that while he's had a lackluster first round, he deserved the opportunity to move on because he performed great for 26 races, right? So that's the good thing about this is that it does reward what you do for the first handful of races. So that kind of wraps up all those guys. Is Coke Zero Sugar the best Coke ever? I know that's a bold question, but it's got that irresistible taste to back it up. Well, when you've got an irresistible match like zero sugar and 0 calories, something sensational is bound to happen. It's like when me and my co-host Jared team up to make a podcast. It's too bad you can't taste with your ears because Coke Zero Sugar tastes so amazing, it's hard to put it into words. But hey, that's my job, at least on Mondays. You have to taste it for yourself. Coke Zero Sugar, the best Coke ever.
What does this mean now for the guys that do advance, like the Truex, right?
Yep.
Goes right back to the top of the point
Goes
standings.
right back to the top. You're giving Goliath another life. So they're a team that again, when they win big. Usually nobody's even close when they hit it right. Like it's just they can really be a juggernaut some weeks, and so I look at the list and. My original Final Four are still kind of 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess I want to know from you. Interesting what I want to, maybe you and Travis can. Let's take out tell me someone that is in this, the next 8, right?
Yeah.
Who would be a surprise Final Four? Let's just say, things don't go as everyone plans, right? Where it's Spire and Truex, Hamlin, and Larson. Give me someone that surprisingly will make it to the Final Four.
I like Reddick's chances now a lot.
I'm hearing that quite a bit. Understandable. He ran top 3 the first 2. He ran mediocre, kind of at best last night. My
thing is with this next round, right? You got to go to Texas and have a good day. If you can go to Texas and have a good day and get out of Talladega unscathed and then go to the Roval and be competent, which drivers then are most likely to win at those final 3 tracks before going to Phoenix, which is where I like Tyler Reddick.
Yeah.
Like at Homestead.
I'm going to go Chris Buescher. he's so solid right now. He's putting himself in the top 5 most weeks. And if any one of us 4, have a bad round or 2, which is very possible, the Bushers could, the Keselowskis, like they're fast enough. They have enough speed to make it to the Final 4. So I look at those. I mean, Blaney's will have an uphill battle just because of, he's fighting the same thing Logano's fighting, right? And so I think that, Blaney's will have an uphill battle. It's not impossible. He's gifted. He's good enough. It's just, it's going to be uphill. Chastain hasn't shown the speed really the last, I don't know. You can say Nashville, he definitely was the best car there. But other than that, I just haven't seen the speed out of the one. You see it in glimpses, a little bit during practice. You see it a couple runs during the race here and there, but they certainly don't have this all-out speed. I do think
to me, it's got to be a guy that's showing you that they can win a race.
You would say Busher then.
Since his win in Nashville, Ross has only had 2 top 10 finishes.
But I will say this about Ross. He is racing way, way smarter. He's understanding that he doesn't have the race-winning speed, so the way he's managing the races is what's keeping him alive most weeks. So
I like the old Ross better, though.
Yeah, you did. I didn't. I just think that, sometimes this is a point in your race team where you're thinking, well, if I don't have race-winning speed this week, how am I going to get the best finish I can get? And I think he's doing that right now. And he's just trying to manage this wave until it hopefully comes back around and they gain speed, right? So because there's ebbs and flows. Like, it's just, you're not the fastest car every week, and you're not going to stay the fastest car every week for the next 10 weeks. There's going to be waves of other cars that start to hit things that show up. And, I think he's just riding this downward wave until it goes back up.
Yeah. What about Bubba? This was a big night for Bubba.
It was, and, certainly he had some bad luck last week at Kansas, but great resilient job by that team to point their way in. And he did his job the very first stage. That was the key, right? He ran
the first day, right, to qualify.
First day, yeah, good point. It's qualifying. It's everything, right? That is where you get the stage points from, is qualifying well. He did that. I finished P3 in the first stage, and then he managed the race after that. The whole race team did. They did a great job of kind of educating him on the situation. Here's what we got. And, they managed it perfectly, right? They just didn't put themselves in trouble, didn't take any unnecessary risk. And now he moves on to the round of 12. So it's great for, personally for me, that was a fabulous night, right? I won. My 2 cars now go to the round of 12. Great night. Couldn't have been much better for me.
How aware are you of Bubba's situation when you have your own race to manage?
The only time I can see is during caution. So there's a big screen there at Bristol, and under caution, as soon as we get to the straightaway, I'm poking my head, looking through the window, looking at the standings. So I know. Now, I don't know the threat of how far can they go forward, how far, I don't know what lap they're on. I don't know any of that stuff. I just kind of am looking at that constantly. And I knew that throughout the race it was really tight. But as you saw, I didn't hesitate to lap the 45, 23 or anyone. I've gotten the bad end of these races so much. I'm wide open. Like, I want to lap as many cars as I can and win for my team.
What I'm curious is, they mentioned it on the broadcast, is that going into this race, the 23 team came up with the math that they needed to score something like 55 points, and history tells them that would be good enough to advance into the next round. Are you a part of that discussion midweek as like, okay, here's what y'all need to do to advance, or are you not really in that?
I kind of leave it up to those guys. They've got some really good engineers and guys that work on the numbers there quite a bit. Yes, there's some guidance from me on that, but they do a great job of preparing the drivers every single week with all the information they need. And really, you just kind of look at past history. I mean, we spoke about it last week on the podcast that somebody was going to stumble. You had all these guys that were plus 18, plus 12, plus 15. Someone was going to have a bad race. Now, we didn't know that Harvick was going to finish where he did. We didn't know Logano was going to get a wreck, but we knew someone was going to stub their toe, and that was going to allow that team an opportunity to point their way in, even though they were 18, 19 points back.
Yeah. MJ seemed to have a good night.
He did. Yeah. I mean, speaking of which, man, I was such a fanboy over Tyler Reddick's suit, the J Balvin suit. I told our president, Steve Letta, make sure I get that suit whenever he's done racing it this evening. So that was super cool collaboration. The car was just sick. It looked so good. You couldn't really tell on TV, but it had this elephant print like deep down in the kind of the tan color of it.
It's like those basketball jerseys that
it was very faint.
Yeah.
But it was the details that they had on it was cool, and to have, Jose come, it's so cool.
Yeah, it was a cool night for Tyler and that whole partnership.
Yeah, and you saw, Michael to the very end was sitting on the pit box, and he's right behind poor Booty. He's, he's nervous anyway of what's going on out there. He's got MJ talking in his ear, asking questions, and that just shows the passion that Michael has for this race team and the people that we've hired, and it's great. It goes a long way, certainly to our employees, to see how passionate Michael is about the performance of the race team, and glad we're doing a great job for him.
Speaking of mentally strong, I mean, Booty's got to sit up there, call this race, coach Bubba, right? Keep him level, all while Michael Jordan sitting behind him. Like,
toughest job in the industry.
Giving him a shoulder massage.
Yeah, Booty's got the toughest job in the industry, no doubt. Most of that is trying to get in Bubba's head. So,
yeah.
But yeah, it's been great. I'm really happy with where that team's at, and obviously they've already exceeded goals. Now you just keep digging. Just keep putting solid runs together. The round of 12 will be no different than the round of 16. There will still be guys that stub their toe that have bad days. And if you can put together he's at such a point disadvantage. He's going to need to finish top 15 every week, be top 10 two out of the three, and he's probably going to have to get 30 stage points, 25, 30 stage points during this round to make it, which is all feasible. They can do it, especially with the tracks coming up. So we'll see how it goes. But I think we're shaping up for a great round in the playoffs for all the drivers, and I'm excited to see how it turns out for everyone.
Yeah, what's your expectations these next three races?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. We tested at the Texas Motor Speedway during the summer on a new tire there. The 11 team did. So I think that, we should be pretty good when we go there. Talladega, who knows? Roval, who knows, right? So we just hope we put together some solid races here in the next few weeks. And you don't want to go into the Roval sweating points. That's just, we want to get the work done early in this round. That's my mindset.
Yeah, someone's going to sleep really well if one of these 12 playoff drivers wins Texas.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You're going to have a good 3 weeks.
This is an important race, no doubt, for especially for the guys that are, the probably me through Reddick, right? We're all we're in a good points spot, not great, but it's everyone really is. This is an important event for those competing in the round of 12, because you can't count on, we're going to be great at Talladega. We can be great and get taken out. The Roval, now they've added the stage cautions there. Who knows, right? You get taken out and restart there. So you just never know. Does your paycheck stretch as far as it used to? Most likely it doesn't. But you can help hedge against inflation by diversifying your IRA or 401k into gold. It's an asset that has stood the test of time. Birch Gold Group has helped tens of thousands of Americans protect their retirement savings with physical precious metals. Now you can too. Get a free info kit on gold right now by texting the word Denny to 989898. Fill out a brief form, then speak to one of their representatives so they can personalize your free no-obligation kit. When you place an order by October 31st, Birch Gold Group will send you a free gift card to the Dirty Mo Media and Junior Motorsports online store worth up to $500. Buy Actions Detrimental merch, use race gear, autographed collectibles, shirts, hats, and more. But you can only get this gift card by texting Denny to the number 989898, filling out a brief form, speaking to one of their representatives, and then buying from Birch Gold Group by October 31st. With an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, you're in good hands with Birch Gold. Get started now by texting Denny to 989898.
We got one Dear Denny this week.
Hold on, so I want to ask Denny about the post-race reaction from the fans. Would you your video seemed to go pretty viral this past 24 hours.
Yeah.
What'd you make of
that? Jared did a good job with that edit for sure. He did great. This just goes right into my wheelhouse. I don't think people knew that I love banter. I love talking shit. I do. And now I'm just running well enough where I can back it up. I'm feeding off of it.
It's great because I get to capitalize on that.
Yeah. I'm feeding off of it because I'm proving so many people wrong. And it's like, all I want to do at this point is, if you root against me, I just want to make these next 7 weeks a living hell for you. I do. I want to live in the misery of you watching us run well. Like, am I feeding into it, the villain stuff? Absolutely, 100%. Because I've got some confidence. Our team is running well. And, it just seems like now, Jared has done some work on social media that's fed these people and the booze, and like you just keep they're getting louder and they're getting more, but we're also getting more cheers than ever. So it's like,
it's been a fun case study because these pictures of you doing a burnout or anything on the front stretch, and then the fans behind, right? It's cool to see the reaction. And the last 2 weeks, the Darlington Xfinity win and then the Pocono win, middle fingers galore, right? But there's not that at Bristol. There's more like, woohoo, Denny won, or I acknowledge that Denny won and just kicked everyone's ass.
Well, what I've noticed on social media is that many people that I see in the comments are like, I just boo because the person next to me is doing it.
So that's what my theory is. You don't have any more haters. The haters are just more loud, but you are bringing in more fans of you. If that makes sense.
I just think you're taking that neutral crowd that really didn't care, and you're either pulling more of them this way or you're pushing more of them that way. And doesn't matter which way you're pushing or pulling them, it's good.
This is from the bottom of my heart truth, is that I'm not trying to get more fans, but I love the back and forth. I mean, you've been around me. Anybody that plays in my basketball league or golf league, I love talking to people. I just do. It's fun for me. And to me, there's a mental aspect of it that I'm just self-motivating myself through doing it. And it continues to just make me better, right? And so, I don't know. I'm just in a good spot right now. And it's been fun. This whole thing's been fun. And certainly this kind of all started around kind of the Pocono thing with Larson, but it's taken on a mind of its own at this point, and we're just having fun with it. Hopefully we can just keep it going, right? Because obviously, the first thing someone that isn't rooting for you to do, they're just waiting for 1 week to for you to not do well. So see, I told you you suck, and but you don't. Where are you at? I don't see you this week. Like,
they've got that
can't
tweet,
have it both ways.
They've got that tweet saved in their drafts already, ready to press send.
Right? But hey, I deserve it because I'm not afraid to tell them off too, right?
Yeah.
Like, so it's
Travis,
it's fun.
I'm rooting for a championship so hard. Just the social ideas that are out there of what can be done would be so much fun.
Jared, there's so much work to be done. It's,
not for me.
I know.
I'm just along for the ride.
That's what
watching.
actually adds more pressure because as well as we're running, like, well, hey, I can't jump towards Phoenix and start thinking about how I'm going to win this championship at Phoenix. Like, I got 6 weeks of work left. Like, there's a lot of this process that is still yet to be done. But again, I've said many times this year in the press and the media before this playoff, this year just feels different.
Well, that's the interesting thing is the reporters keep talking about Phoenix. They were just this week talking about Truex might not making it past this round yet. We're still like all these reporters want to just jump to Phoenix and just forget about these races that they have.
Well, I don't know what the odds would be, but I'm smart enough to understand them that right now, if let's just pretend let's just take the top four, the Byron, Truex, Hamlin, Larson, and the odds maker at Phoenix would probably make me the third favorite. Just because of historically, Larson's won the championship there. Truex's record at Phoenix is great. It's easy to get caught up in what's this week's results or last week's and, Truex is not what he was. Yeah, bullshit. Like at any point, you just, some tracks fit guys and you just don't know. And I think that we would be an underdog right now, I think, going into Phoenix. Now, that's not the mindset I'm going to have. I think that, again, like I said, when we're at our best, like, good luck. I feel like we're really good. But it's going to be a fun 7 weeks.
Yeah, as you said, you can't jump right to it, right? If I was a driver, these next 3 weeks would scare the out of me.
Yeah, no doubt. I love the round of 8. Man, I just hope I get there. Like, those tracks are right in the wheelhouse. But, yeah, you got to get there first.
Yeah. All right. Dear Denny now, what do you do with the checkered flags from your wins that are given you on the front stretch?
Checker flags usually go to my dad. He's asked for many years for me to bring the checker flags back. I only have 2, though. I gave the one back at might have been Kansas. Yeah, I think Kansas site. No, it was Darlington. I gave that flag back. So I'll have to order a replica. But yeah, it's they usually go to my parents' house when they frame them.
I had something real quick. I don't know if you saw on my story last night. It was a good night because you won and there was the victory lane and all that fun stuff. But you came around and did a burnout on the front stretch, and then you went to the back stretch. And I was like, oh, you're going to the back stretch because the pit crew's back there, right? So then I decide to book it from the front stretch. And I do this a lot, and I realize I shouldn't do it. But when I'm approaching the pit wall, I kind of just jump, going to touch the pit wall and bounce off, right? So I'm approaching the pit wall. I leave my feet. The 19 crew guys are packing up the pit box, and a guy comes out from behind the pit box, makes me do a double take. I trip over the wall. Down I go.
Oh, man.
Camera lands face first. Broke the front of
Are you
the
me?
Yeah. Yeah. There is a filter.
Oh, I don't care about that. I would just pay anything to see face plant.
Well, there was at least 2 people that saw it. Kellen being one. So
Well,
if you see Kellen at the shop on
I don't
Tuesday,
care about that. I need to get the security. I want to get the security footage from the track to somebody out there. Do you have a video? I'm asking the citizens of Bristol County. Please tell me you have a video of Jared busting his ass over the wall.
If someone's got a video of you doing a burnout on the front stretch, it's probably on there.
Backstretch.
No, this was on the front stretch. You burned out on the front stretch, then you went around the back
find
stretch.
it.
Are there cameras on the pit box?
There used to be. I don't know if there is anymore, but I'm not sure.
Well, if you can't find a video, ask Kellen.
Is
on
it
Tuesday.
during the burnout?
Yes.
So anyone with a view of the burnout, but then where were you at when he fell? So I want to make sure we try to get this video. We're gonna SCI this.
Okay. Well,
or CSI.
There's a clip of you on Twitter.
Sorry, you're laughing over there.
There's a clip of you on Twitter. I'm in the background, so we just need to get an extended version.
Where did you fall? What pit box?
The 19.
The 19. Okay.
Yes.
All right. If you have a video of the burnout and a view of the 19 pit box, please, I'm asking social media, help us find Jared busting his head.
Yeah. If not,
breaking his
ask
camera.
your 19 crew. Ask the 19 crew guys. They'll probably recount it for you.
Perfect.
Reminder, guys, to rate, review, and follow wherever you get your podcasts, and be sure to subscribe to Dirty Mo Media on YouTube. Each week, we put up a couple of clips, and then on Friday, the full video version of the podcast is up. And then also a reminder, Las Vegas, we've got the Dirty Mo experience. You've been talking about that quite a bit.
I just trying to get everyone to go out there, support Dale Jr. and all of his podcast guys. Where are they going to be?
It'll be at the Westgate. Las Vegas Resort and Casino. And if you aren't going to go there, you're not going to be able to see it because we're not podcasting this. Because
like
this is
must be present.
No filter. Like this
Ooh.
is, yeah. So
These
people that
guys.
complain about hearing bleeps when we bleep out cuss words on the podcast, go to the Vegas show because it's unfiltered. DBC Unfiltered is going to be, that'll be something to see.
I don't think they complain. They're more like, oh, he just missed that one.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, well, go check
but
that
go
out.
to dirtymomedia.com/live for tickets.
Right on. We'll check those guys out. And anything else you got, Jared?
Just one more review here. This one's from Corona Glenn. I love your NASCAR 101 feature. I look forward to it every week now, and I love hearing the little nuances of NASCAR. So
I appreciate that.
That'll be back next week.
Yeah, that's something we started new, and actually I've had a couple people tell us that, really appreciate the 101 stuff because I don't know all the stuff that you're talking about, and it's so easy for me to just assume everyone knows the lingo and the inside information that I'm talking about. So we'll try to simplify this stuff pretty often for you guys as much as we can in the NASCAR 101 feature. That's also sponsored by the Birch Gold Group. Don't forget them. So yeah, thank you for the review. Kind of leave us another if you're out there listening, and we'll read them here on air.